WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Bonnier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And we got a whole lot to talk about today. And joining me as my co-host du jour is Anna Little. Anna, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Rick, so happy to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you with me today, Anna, as my co-host, because a lot of things are happening in the news. A lot of things are taking place in the White House. And, well, I'll let you break the news to our audience, Anna.
Well, I'm really not as shocked as encouraged, let's say, that Shinseki is resigning. That's with regard to the VA debacle. Veterans deserve to have good care, and I think under his leadership, it wouldn't be possible. So I'm really happy to see him moving on. It underscores the importance of the care of the VA and the mistakes that have been made in the waiting times and really, frankly, the fraud and deception with regard to the waiting times, the times that the vets have been waiting for their treatment. And frankly, postponing treatment is akin to denying treatment, because in a lot of the cases where these were postponed, death is the result if the treatment isn't received in a timely manner. So I think Shinseki's resigning is important, very, very important that we, the people, watch what's going on and speak up as the replacement is being chosen. This is a very important position in our government. We've got to make sure it's filled by somebody responsible. Now, Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you because you just made me aware of another resignation.
Right.
Break news on that one.
Yes, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney is also resigning. So there's some speculation. Was this planned or was this in the works? And did they announce his resignation on top of Shiseki's resignation to kind of blunt the blow? But Jay Carney stepping down as White House Press Secretary. So
that is very significant, and I am waiting for the fallout on that. It's very important to watch these key positions, and as they change over, we've got to watch who's being put in that place. I think it is an admission on the part of the administration that there's something awry. These resignations are likely anticipatory of what would have been a firing situation. So, I think there has to be merit there. And at this point, I think we can consider ourselves heard on these very important issues because the reaction is evident.
Well, I think that Shiseki was about to be fired. That's number one. I think that's why he resigned. As far as Jay Carney goes, I'm not sure if this is the rats jumping the ship or Carney looking to get out because maybe other possibilities or potentials. Maybe he just got sick of it all. Maybe he just got sick of lying to cover up for Barack Obama. So it's hard to say. He had been there for quite a while. He replaced Robert Gibbs, who I think was a disaster as the White House press secretary. And so Jay Carney leaving the White House. Hopefully, Anna, we're trying to get a call into Fred Lucas, the official, unofficial White House correspondent for the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'd like to get Fred Lucas's take if we could get a hold of him perhaps a little later on in the show.
Well, I would be excited to hear what Fred Lucas has to say. The White House correspondents have the inside information on this stuff, whether it be from direct channels, public channels, or whether it be from the scuttlebutt that they hear on the back end. So they'll have much more information than you and I can glean from the Internet right now.
Well, I kind of think so. But, Shinseki, I'm not surprised that wouldn't come down. I'm a little bit surprised about the Jay Carney one coming down now. at this time.
Yeah, I am surprised as well. Jay has always presented himself as an advocate for whatever the president's policies are. And when he's spoken on behalf of the president in those press conferences, it seems like he's pretty confident when he's speaking. So I'm surprised by it, and I'm waiting to hear. There's got to be a backstory, so we'll get it eventually.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. So, Anna, what else is on your radar screen this day, my friend?
Well, a little bit of follow-up on what we were talking about yesterday, my lady in Sudan that I would like to see saved. It seems that the Sudanese government is feeling the pressure. They have responded. Now, this article that I'm referring to is from CNS News, so we know that it's good news. And it was actually issued yesterday while we were on the air.
Anna, why don't you remind our listeners what you're referring to?
Well, there's a Sudanese woman who is jailed right now for refusing to deny her Christianity in favor of Muslim religion. So that's really the summary of it. But what complicates it and even makes it more barbaric, to coin a phrase that you used yesterday, Rick, is the fact that she was pregnant when she was jailed. Her 18-month-old child was jailed with her, and now that she's given birth in jail with chains on her ankles, she is now nursing her newborn baby girl in jail. The husband is a U.S. citizen and has applied for permanent residency for his wife, but she is not to be released from this jail, and the sentence for the crime of being a Christian is death. So it's a terrible, terrible situation. The update on it is that the Sudanese government is feeling the pressure, and they're responding, trying to say that Islam is a religion of choice, in that this woman had the choice to give her children up to the husband or some other person or to bring them into jail. So the discussion that the Sudanese government wants to entertain is not whether she should or should not be sentenced to death, or whether she has the freedom of choice where it comes to practicing the religion that she chooses, but more than the choice of where the children would be located. Mm-hmm. So at least there's discourse. I think we have their attention. They're feeling the pressure, and they are trying to do something by way of response to improve their position. I think it's impossible without releasing the woman and allowing her to come here to the United States. And I think political asylum is certainly appropriate while she waits for residency based on her husband. That's my recommendation to the U.S. government. I hope they're listening to me. I'm part of We the People.
Well, you're right, Anna. And where's Barack Obama on this? Where's Hillary Clinton? Where's Michelle Obama? Where's the National Organization of Women? Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage coming from the feminists?
Yeah, and I think at this point it's just a moot point for this administration. They're late to the table on it. Anything they do right now, it's late. Mm-hmm. But they have to do something, because this is a U.S. citizen who's being deprived of his family. Mm-hmm. And it's by a foreign government. That man's rights need to be protected by his government. I'm not saying send in a military force, but I am saying get on your feet and do something. You know, and this, we want to recommend that they do. Oh, come on, guys. You know, find a little fortitude. Stand up for this woman. She's been sentenced to death on a First Amendment issue. And it's been recognized, freedom of religion, as a human right worldwide. So this is just ridiculous in 2014. And I understand, you know, Christianity, martyrdom, it's been done before. But in this day and age, in this civilized world, it should not be necessary anymore. And certainly the flogging that she received as a pregnant woman is barbaric at the least.
100 lashes.
Lashes, yeah.
100 lashes, 100 lash beating.
Yeah.
You know, and also, where are the calls for sanctions against the Sudan?
Well, they better be quick about it, because she's only got 2 years of nursing this young child before they kill her. You know, if we don't get a move on, just the legal process itself will be ongoing, and she'll be dead.
And I have to take. You call this a civilized world? I don't know so much, Anna Little. When you've got
Sudan is certainly not a civilized government in my opinion.
It's not.
I think they should be held to the UN human rights standards like everyone else in the world, and they should be made to comply. And if Islam is non-compliant, well, it needs to adjust. You can't go around killing people in the civilized world.
And then you got the situation of the 200 young girls being kidnapped, on top of the story that came out yesterday or the day before about the young Pakistani woman that was killed by her father and her brothers and her fiancé because she did not want to marry a man she didn't love. So it just is. I don't know if we live in a civilized world or not, Anna Little, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I hear you. I believe we do, and I think people are just asleep at the wheel, and I think they need to stand up and flex a little muscle and tell the Sudanese government that this is wrong. There may be many other alternatives. You can sanction her. You can say she can never come back to Sudan. She can be condemned verbally by the Islamic religion, and she can be ostracized by that particular religion, but you can't take her life. I'm sorry, but life is given by God, and it is to be taken by God, and we are not to step in the middle of that, and especially not for freedom of religion. This woman is going to die because she will not deny Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior, and this is 2014.
It is.
Come on, guys.
Hey, Anna, we got to take a break. We're up against our break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can now hear the show anytime, day or night by calling 832-999-1199. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment, and it is protected by the Second. We'll be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show on Monday afternoon, place for that is at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And I'd like to welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show our good friend Fred Lucas. Fred is the White House correspondent for theblaze.com. Before joining The Blaze, Fred worked at cnsnews.com. Fred is also the author of the book, The Right Frequency. Fred, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Great to have you with us. Join us, Fred. Fred, there's a lot of news coming out of the White House today. That of General
definitely
not your usual day. That General Shinseki resigning, and also Jay Carney, White House press secretary. Wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, both were somewhat talked about. Shinseki was, I think, very expected. Jay's announcement came as quite a surprise to most people in the press room. We had heard that this might be happening at some point, that it might be leaving. I don't think most people thought it would be today. Secretary Shinseki, on the other hand, I think that had been anticipated. People assumed that after this IG report came out earlier this week that was pretty scathing about the conditions in Phoenix, that there would probably be some type of decision made before the president left for Europe next week.
Right. Now, as you say, how do you say the name, Fred? Shinseki. That resigning was, we could see that coming. It was either he was going to resign or probably asked to, or probably be fired. Carney's a little bit different. I had heard that he might be thinking of leaving, that he might be looking to pursue other things in his life. But do you see the timing of this suspicious? On top of the Shinseki resignation, that maybe they decided to make the call now on Carney to kind of like soften the blow of Shinseki?
Oh, that is possible. I mean, I did hear that the president said at least that Jay Carney came to him in April with this, that he was interested in probably leaving. I think most past press secretaries have gone on to be in the private sector and usually do pretty well there. So I'm not sure if, these were, I suppose, both a long time in the making, and they may have decided to, while we're at this point, we may as well go forward. I did hear that the incoming press secretary, Josh Earnest, he's been the deputy press secretary for a while. He was told about it on Wednesday, or was asked about it, whether he wanted to assume that position.
Right.
So Wednesday was the day that the IG report came out.
Right.
So that's you might have an interesting connection there. I'm not sure if there's any connection or not, though.
Okay.
It does seem like an odd situation. I mean, two resignations in one day. One in the case of Secretary Shinseki was certainly policy related, this VA scandal. The other, most secretaries do, press secretaries eventually move on. 3.5 years is a fairly long time. That's, I think Robert Gibbs just stayed on for a little over 2 years.
Right.
So, predecessor.
Fred, were you in a room when the announcement was made today?
Yes, I was in the room for both announcements today.
Wow. Okay. So, what about the other people in the press room? What was their reaction? Shock? Surprise?
Well, I can give you sort of the atmosphere this morning with Shinseki first. Everyone, we were notified around a little before 9 o'clock that there would be a meeting between the president and Secretary Shinseki at 10:15 a.m. That was not on the schedule from the day before. Most of us sort of put two and two together. There's going to be a big announcement, this unscheduled meeting, previously unannounced meeting at least. That means something.
Mm-hmm.
I think most reporters believe that the president probably did want to tie up loose ends to some degree on this VA matter and move forward. So, I think most people were pretty much expecting that. And then, but today when Jay Carney came out for around the first 5 or 6 minutes of the press conference, he was just taking questions, mostly about Shinseki, actually. Mm-hmm. And then right around 6 minutes into it, the president came out again and made this announcement. It was actually sort of funny. The president had a good line in which he said that one of Jay's favorite lines is that I have no personnel announcements to make today, but I do. So, and then he went on to announce that Jay Carney was leaving and that his replacement would be Josh Ernest.
Wow. We're here in a Conservative Commandos radio show. We're speaking to the official, unofficial White House correspondent of the Conservative Commandos radio show and the official White House correspondent of the Blaze, Fred Lucas. Fred, on the other line, I do have my co-host, Anna Little, who has a question for you.
Fred, I understand that it's presented as just a routine change, and I understand all the background you've given relative to the fact that it's a long time for a spokesperson to be in that position. But this is a remarkably controversial presidential administration. He's had to field an awful lot of tough questions in the time that he's been there. And I wondered, is there any indication, any sense in the room upon the announcement that perhaps Jay Carney had frankly just had enough?
I think that is probably true. He did say he enjoyed his time here. That he enjoyed. I mean, that's typically what folks say when they leave. But yeah, he was there, and I noticed in the story that's up on theblaze.com, he's been in the hot seat for a lot of these situations. Obviously, just recently, the VA scandal comes to mind, but also Benghazi, the IRS, Fast and Furious, Solyndra, and on and on. So, I mean, he's had to field all these questions for some time now, and I would think that there, would come a point. Everybody reaches that point, I suppose, where they sort of move on to maybe a cushier life, and that's got to take its toll on him.
Hey, Fred.
Any scuttlebutt as to where he's headed?
Right. They were not specific about that. This is not his last briefing, by the way. He will be leaving sometime in June, but he's not going to go on the European trip next week with the president. But we'll see Jay Carney a little bit more into next month, and then at some point Josh Ernest will take over.
Hey, Fred, before we go, we got to wrap in about 30 seconds. Okay, Jay Carney replaced Robert Gibbs. I think Gibbs was in over his head. I thought Carney did about as good a job as he could possibly do, considering who he's working for. How in 30 seconds, how would you compare the two of them?
Gibbs was more, I think, confrontational, and Carney was somewhat. I think the criticism of him is that he was sometimes dismissive and sometimes eager to throw or refer questions over to another department. They have different backgrounds. Gibbs was always a very political guy, deep within the Democratic Party. Carney actually was a reporter himself at one point for Time magazine for years. Josh Ernest has actually been part of the Democratic Party, was the communications director.
Hey, Fred, we got to break, but please give your website where people can follow you.
Yeah, it's theblaze.com.
Blaze.com. Fred Lucas, thank you for joining us, and don't forget, everybody, go out and get the book, The Rate Frequency. Hey, Fred, thanks a lot. Take care. God bless.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. Ann and I will be right back with our very next guest right after this.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. And program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. You could also hear a rebroadcast of today's show on Monday afternoon by logging on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can now listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling from your phone, 832-999-1199. Call using a phone where you don't pay for long distance. There's no extra charges for this call, no extra advertisement. And joining us here in the Conservative Commandos radio show is Richard Pizzullo. He is seeking the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate from New Jersey to oppose the guy that I call the Barack Obama clone, that Cory Booker. Rich works with business owners, school administrators, and nonprofits, helping them to use technology to solve problems. As a technology specialist, Rich has worked at the operational and executive levels with small and large businesses. Along the way, he's worked as a janitor, a dishwasher, a salesman, a business owner. Hey, Rich, you've done it all, but welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you. I've done radio, too. I was a religious broadcaster, producing words and music from Sage Chapel on the campus of Cornell University. So, yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in my day.
Well, good for you. You know, Rich, I'm a person who believes that I think that it's good for people to go from profession to profession. Helps make you a more rounded person in life. But, Rich, now you're
Barack Obama's first full-time job should be president of the United States. We can have a conversation about that later.
Rich, you are so right on that one. Rich, let me ask you this. How would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners, and why are you running for the U.S. Senate?
Well, the introduction is the reason. I'm a fellow parent. I've been working with scouts and parents of Boy Scouts for decades, and what I see is a sense of frustration among people trying to raise families, that it's getting harder to get by on the salaries that you're paid. Everybody's more and more concerned about being able to keep their jobs. People that are trying to raise their families and get their kids to the doctor are suddenly astonished by the changes in deductibles and the increases in the rates that they're being paid. Basically, it's becoming impossible to be a parent in this state. And because of that, we need to get somebody into Washington that understands that. Like, my parents can't afford to live here. My kids see no hope and they want to leave. And my wife and I and other families that we know, they're just having a very difficult time. And the guy I'm running against, Cory Booker, he doesn't have those problems. His parents have a lot of money. He doesn't have any kids. And as far as his personal situation, he can just tweet himself $1 million. He's famous for being famous. He doesn't have a clue of what it's like to try and raise a family in New Jersey or the way that the federal government is interfering with that. I do, and I think that I can carry that message into the cloakroom of the Senate where politics really happens and use my skills as a change agent, which is what we do in the technology business, to get people to change the way they do things, not by lecturing them, not by beating up on them, not by being mean with them, but by demonstrating to them the value in embracing the change and then moving them towards it. We're going to change the Senate by changing people's hearts, and that's what I want to do. I want to take what I know without requiring a lobbyist and bring it into the Senate where we can get them using conservative principles to solve the nation's problems.
Well, Rich, as you probably heard me mention in your introduction, I see Cory Booker as a Barack Obama clone. Hey, they might have been raised in different circumstances, but it seems like both of these guys love the late night talk shows. Both of these guys have a nice smile and are seem to be nice men, but I don't think either one of them are built or capable of making decisions for this country. Obviously, if you look at the decisions Barack Obama has made, you would agree with that, and Cory Booker just seems to be a rubber stamp of Barack Obama.
Cory Booker's first full-time job was mayor of Newark.
There you go.
And he failed miserably at that. And so what did the people of Newark do? They got him the heck out. They pushed him to Washington and inflicted him on the rest of it.
Let's send them thank you notes, Rich.
Excuse me?
Let's send them thank you notes.
We really should do that. But, I mean, Cory Booker's first major speech in the Senate was talking about unemployment. I think we should give him a taste of that firsthand.
I'll second that one. Hey, Rich, what do you believe the three biggest, largest issues facing today are?
The overwhelming debt is the sword of Damocles that's hanging over all of us. But the biggest issue is the disrespect for the Constitution that is crept into every branch of government. That's the biggest problem. Rules really do matter. You can't play a game of basketball without obeying the rules. Everybody in every little club you've been in knows Robert's Rules of Order and understands that they're bylaws and you have to live by them. In a post-constitutional society, which we are creeping into, the people who have the most power or celebrity end up being the ones who get what they want and take care of the friends that they choose to. That's the biggest problem. We're turning into a country where the government decides from whom they're going to take, how much of what you make you're allowed to keep, to whom they're going to give. And that's the biggest problem that needs to be resolved.
Rich, I've said...
derived from that.
Rich, you just said something that I've said here on the show, maybe in a different way, but it seems like the people that are down in Washington are more apt to put their party ahead of our country, and they're more interested in taking care of themselves, their families, and their friends. They're more interested in that than taking care of our country.
That's exactly correct. They live in a bubble, and let me explain why. And this is very personal. It has to do with raising money. Right now, I'm fighting for my life in this Senate race because the only way you can accept money is from personal donations that are not tax deductible, and they're capped at $2,600. Now, Cory Booker has millions of dollars in the bank. I'm going to my family and friends and people who support the conservative agenda and saying, "Can you give me some money?" And they're trying to give us what they can. This is hard work. By the way, you can go to Pizzulo.com and make a donation. I would appreciate that. But once you get into Washington, the party powers tell you, look, you vote the way we tell you. The lobbyists say you vote the way we tell you. And you won't have to do that work. You won't have to call people you don't know and beg for money. It will just appear in your bank account. And then you get used to that. And if you stray from the party line, they punish you a little bit. They cancel one of your fundraisers. They skip one of your mailings. They let you know that you're on a leash now and you can be controlled. And that's what happens. Sooner or later, everybody gets swept into it. That's why term limits protects everybody. It protects the politicians from corruption. It protects the people from corrupt politicians and protects the integrity of the government because suddenly politicians are no longer a worthwhile investment because they're all going to be leaving at the end of a term or two.
You know, Rich, a little bit ago you mentioned the Constitution and you mentioned our laws. It seems like Barack Obama and his friends over in the Democrat Party and over on the left, if they don't like a law, they ignore it. And the latest call is they want to make changes to the First Amendment of the Constitution to override or overrule the Citizens United verdict that came down in the Supreme Court. So
I've been watching that. And I find it abominable that the executive branch has such contempt for the rules. But Barack Obama has been quoted. You can find the videos on YouTube where he complains about the Constitution as being not loose enough to allow the executive branch to do what it wants to do. It's specifically designed to prevent what you're seeing right now. The Founding Fathers looked 200 years into the future, saw Barack Obama, and wrote a document that's supposed to protect us from him. But that won't work unless the politicians, the elected officials, will do that, which brings me to my point. The reason that your elected officials do not listen to you and do not respond to the will of the people is because they know your neighbors don't vote.
Hey,
you might.
Hey, Rich,
yes, sir.
Rich, we got to take a break, but could you hold for 2 minutes through the break?
Certainly.
We want to get into some issues with you on the other side, okay?
Thank you.
All right, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, and we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Hey, don't forget, check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Two different sites, different information on each one of them. We'll be right back.
How I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens
last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And don't forget, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show on Monday afternoon, place for that is at vigilantlibertyradio.us, vigilantlibertyradio.us. And joining us today here as our guest is Rich Pizzullo. He's seeking the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate from New Jersey. Of course, when he gets in the Senate, he's going to be representing all of us in America. Rich, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Rich, let's...
time.
I'm sorry?
I said it's a very busy time. I mean, we have operations in every county.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the road with multiple visits. It's an exciting time, and we have the constant fundraising going on. So, yeah, it's a final push, but we're not going to waste a drop of momentum.
All right, Rich. Let's talk about some of the issues that are buzzing around our country these days. Let's start out with the veterans and the veteran administration. Talk to us about it.
Well, I wore the uniform of the country. I've lost friends in combat. I've lost friends in accidents. I've lost friends to the Veterans Administration hospital system. But what I'm seeing here pales. It's amazing and unconscionable. Simply stated, the only true entitlements in this country are those that are earned by the people that put on the uniform of this country and write a check redeemable for up to the full amount of their lives. Those people, they have earned entitlements. Everything we give to citizens, other than what we hand to our veterans, that they've earned, is charity. There's a difference. The veterans are entitled to the services, and we should be ashamed of ourselves as a nation that we allow this to happen. It goes back to what I was saying before the break. We allow our elected officials to allow such a lack of oversight to exist. Everybody involved, every incumbent should be fired. Every executive at the VA needs to be replaced, and we need to make the hospital system work properly. Let me speak specifically to that topic, and compare it to Obamacare, because Obamacare Obama envisions a socialized medical system for the United States where the government runs it all. Look at the Veterans Administration. That's what you would get, and to prevent that from happening, I would insist that every elected official, every senator, every congressman, the President of the United States, get their health care from the Veterans Administration, and then they would understand what they are doing to those who asked for so little and gave so much. I think that would finally get the attention of the government. We need to make our elected officials understand that their decisions have consequences. They're hurting the very people that stood up asking for nothing and offered themselves to defend our country. We need to fulfill our obligations to them.
Rich, you said you wore the uniform, and we're talking about oversight. We're talking about responsibility. What about Benghazi? It seems like this administration has something to hide. It seems like Hillary Clinton has something to hide. What can you do when you go to Washington to get the truth out of what happened to our ambassador and our other service personnel in Benghazi?
The President of the United States has ice water in his veins, that he could be briefed that our embassy is under attack. And then he could dismiss the Secretary of Defense, not even call him back, not even check on him, and then go to bed and sleep peacefully and wake up and go raise money for himself and his friends. Total ice water in his veins. And that Hillary Clinton was involved in that same process, and then stared the American people in the face as the bodies came off the airplane in Virginia. That was unconscionable. There is much more that needs to be learned. I don't know if all of it is going to be publicized, but we need to find out who ordered our military to stand down. We need to be outraged that the commander-in-chief, with the most powerful arsenal on the planet, didn't mobilize every piece of equipment available to him to defend those people in American soil under brutal attack. There's much that needs to be learned about that. The first question I want answered is, why didn't we send our military? Why didn't we scramble our resources? Why didn't we have contingency meetings in progress all over the planet to see who can do what? If you take them at their word that they didn't know what was going on, we should have been moving on our contingencies in that area. It speaks to a failure in leadership that needs to be addressed not only by the government but by the electorate.
Here in a Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Rich Pizzullo. He's a Republican who's seeking the nomination for U.S. Senate from New Jersey to represent not just New Jersey, but all of the United States. Hey, Rich, on the other line, I do have my co-host who knows a thing or two about campaigning and running for elected office, my very good friend Anna Little. Anna, I wanted to bring you into this conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Rick, and welcome, Rich. I'm always focused on the mechanics of how we're going to get this job done. I mean, it is clear from your discussion of the issues, Rich, that you belong in the U.S. Senate, that you are a terrific conservative representative of the state of New Jersey. We know you've got to get through this primary election. There are other people on the ballot, people who shall not be named because we're talking to you right now. But I'd like to hear about how it is for you on the campaign trail and what people can do to help get you across that finish line, not only in the primary election, but in the general. Talk to us about your ground game. What's going on?
In the ground game, as I said, we have operations in every county. We're working either with regular Republican organizations, groups of independent conservative Republicans. There's Tea Party groups that have been coming forth and helping us, and just citizens. They've been contacting our campaign headquarters by going to Pizzullo.com and offering to volunteer. Everybody has two books. They have a checkbook and they have a contact book. And God has blessed us. He's sent us people to this. He hasn't sent us much money, but he has sent us 10, 20, 30 times the people of any other campaign. It's astonishing. I mean, I've heard of Anna's Army, but imagine that rolled out on a statewide scale. It's humbling to see so many people working.
Well, that's wonderful, Rich, because that's exactly what it's going to take to win this thing. Now, what can folks do if they're listening today to this radio program? They've heard you on the issues, and they're saying, that's our man. What should they do to plug in and become part of your team?
If you can come to Pizzullo.com, Pezzullo.com, and just sign up as a volunteer. You can call us on the phone. Ready for this number? 973-8-SENATE. and that'll get you into our offices, and we can...
Repeat that number again,
973? 973-8-SENATE. Don't ask me what the numbers are, but if you can spell Senate, and I can, 973-8-SENATE gets you to our campaign headquarters.
That sounds great. So, in addition to that, obviously you do need some money. I mean, I obviously believe in the door-to-door campaign, in the roadside rallies, and, all of that kind of thing, because you can't put a price on the notoriety you get from the buzz that's created by all of that. And what you're really trying to do in a primary and in any election, really, is to drive those folks to the polls. You need them to pull the lever, right? So that's the whole point here. But you do need a little bit of money. So what can folks do if they want to contribute? And, how much is too little or how much is too much?
If you go to www.pezzulo.com, PEZZULLO.com, we take donations online. And there's a address there if you'd like to mail the check. If you don't have a computer and you have a pen, I'll give a number later in an address. It's P.O. Box 7043 in Freehold. That's P.O. Box 7043, Freehold, New Jersey, 07728.
That
but
sounds
yeah, the
great.
best way to do
So,
it.
this is a national show. We broadcast from Philly, but we also put it out over the Internet. So, listeners, if you're not in the state of New Jersey, this is a senator, a U.S. senator that we're talking to. This is a fellow that's going to be running for that position. So he wouldn't just represent folks in New Jersey. He'd be representing you, too. So say you can't be on the ground because you're in Nevada or Texas or Arkansas or Michigan. What you can do is you can donate to his campaign, and you certainly can make comments online anytime you see news on his campaign. You can share that with the folks that you believe sympathize with your views on Facebook or Twitter or all of that. This is how we, the people, take charge of our government. So, Rich Pizzullo, I want to thank you, first of all, for having the courage and the stamina to stand up and, as a member of We the People, offer yourself to do this job in the U.S. Senate. And then it's up to us, listeners, We the People, to put a man like Rich Pizzullo in this position. We're talking about Cory Booker here. He's got absolutely no credibility, but he is a parrot of whatever the Democratic, and I mean the Liberal Democratic Party, has to say. And he is certainly a crony of Barack Obama. That's clear. So we do need to fight back. We know what this administration is doing, and we certainly are not in agreement. And if we don't stand up and vote for a guy like Rich Pizzullo and others who are throughout this country running at this time, then, we really can't complain, right? Because it's up to us. So, Rich, tell yourself what it is that you are going to do for us when you go to Washington, D.C.
Well, right now, we're seeing a trend in the conservative movement inside the Senate. And as we send a majority to the Senate this year, and we're going to have a majority, we need to ensure that it's a conservative majority. No one senator is going to change the government. However, when we get together with senators like Ted Cruz and work towards using conservative principles and get people back to obeying the Constitution, that's how we work. Anybody that says I as a senator will do the following is lying. You cannot affect change as an individual, but as a member of the team that is the United States Senate, you can represent your state responsibly as a conservative and work with other senators that understand the role of a senator in a republic and are willing to step up and do that job. That's how you make change. I don't really put a lot of weight into people that say, well, I have a plan to do X, Y, Z when I get to the Senate. I'm going to be the junior senator from New Jersey, but I'm going to be the most powerful ally that Ted Cruz had ever seen descend onto Washington, D.C.
Hey, Rich, we're up against the clock. We're going to have to leave in about 30 seconds, but please give out that website again. Give out that phone number again.
Pezzulo.com, PEZZULLO.com. Radio ads cost me $157 each. Please buy me some. And the phone number is 973-8-SENATE.
Rich Pizzullo, Republican seeking the nomination to run for U.S. Senate. We want to thank you for coming on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Hey, Rich, best of luck to you. And I sincerely mean that.
Thank you very much.
Take care. God bless. All right, Anna, we are up against another break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet. Don't forget, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. Anna and I will be right back with our next guest, Richard Pollack.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. You could also hear a rebroadcast of today's show on Monday afternoon by logging on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And Anna Little, we do have our next guest with us, and it's a new guest, and the honor of that introduction is yours, so please take it away.
I'll be happy to, Rick. Listeners, we have the honor of speaking this afternoon with Richard Pollack. He's a senior watchdog reporter for the Washington Examiner, the former Washington Bureau Chief for PJ Media, and Pollack spent nearly a decade with ABC News as Washington producer for Good Morning America. He also served as a senior producer for Fox News Sunday with Tony Snow. We are going to speak with Richard Pollack today about a new federal database which will track Americans' credit ratings and other financial information, a very important topic. Richard Pollack, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that you're willing to talk about this very important subject. It sounds pretty scary to me. I mean, we've got a teenager in my house who's being required to read that famous book, 1984, and I'm beginning to think about that as I'm reading the article, preparing for this interview. So why don't you introduce the topic? As many as 227 million Americans may be compelled to disclose intimate details of their families and their financial lives for a database that will be managed by two federal agencies. Go ahead and give us the background on that.
Well, the two agencies are the Federal Housing Finance Agency and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Both of them are relatively new agencies. They were both created under the Obama administration. They're both financially oriented entities, and they are jointly trying to put together a thing called the National Mortgage Database. Now, this database was supposed to originally be a very small database in which people could, that is, policymakers would be able to see economic trends, financial trends, things of that sort. However, it has completely morphed into a massive database where, as you said, there may be as many as 227 million Americans who will be compelled to not only provide financial information about their lives and the lives of their families, but they're also going to have to provide a lot of other information that the federal government is referring to as household demographic data. Now, what is that data? They're going to have to disclose their racial, ethnic data, their gender, marital status, religion, education, their employment history, military status, whether they have any student loans still outstanding, and other kinds of issues. And then on the credit history, it's not just simply a credit score that a lot of your listeners probably are familiar with, but this is going to be very, very detailed information about whether or not there were any delinquent payments that you made, any late payments, whether you only paid the minimum amount, what were your high account balances, what were your, and as well as your credit scores. And it provides a lot of other personal identifiable information, such as your name, your address, your Social Security number, all of your credit cards, and other loan information. I mean, it really is 1984.
Unbelievable. Well, now, Richard, in the past, the government forms say that you can check off demographic information, but you've always had a choice whether to do that or not. Are you saying that under this new database, they're going to be required to provide that kind of information?
No. What they're going to do is they're going to acquire this existing data that's already considered historical data of what your past has been. You'll have no opportunity to opt out. You probably won't even be notified that the government will be really hijacking this information and getting it from a whole range of current databases that are held by many different companies, banks, financial institutions, as well as credit score companies.
Well, now, that's troubling because I thought that when I'm discussing my financial information with a private entity for the purposes of obtaining, say, a loan, that there is some kind of privacy that exists between myself and that individual and the public, and that if that person discloses my information, that somehow that's actionable. And I believed that to be true. So now the government's going to have access to that information without even asking me.
That's right.
That doesn't seem right.
the previous norms of confidentiality that all of us are accustomed to. Now, remember, what triggers this is that you've taken out a first lien mortgage, and that the government is going to not just simply start today, but the reason why it's such a large database that they're going to have access to, they are going to take a look at all first lien mortgages that were sold or issued from the year 1998 to the present. So if you took out a loan in 1999, in 2005, if you refinanced, all of that data will now be accessible to these two agencies if they get their way. Now, under the Privacy Act, they must notify the public they intend to do this, and the Federal Housing Finance Agency on April 16th issued a very tiny Federal Register notice indicating that they intended to acquire all of this data. It was up for only 30 days, and after the 30-day comment period, it expired, and they are now able to impose their rule, which is going to be the rule that they'll be able to do it, and it will go into effect shortly. Now, the interesting thing about it is that only 12 parties provided comments. Now, when you look at a lot of other major rulemaking by federal agencies, there can be hundreds or thousands of people who will chime in. This was so much under the radar that no one really knew about it. And so the on May 17th, the date for filing closed, and it's very possible that unless Congress decides to stop it, the Federal Housing Finance Agency and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will probably go forward and begin to amass this national mortgage database.
Unbelievable. Now, I have a question here on the constitutionality of all of this. Do we not have a Fourth Amendment against search and seizure? And if that's the case, how is it that the government has a right to go and obtain this information without my consent?
Well, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created by Elizabeth Warren, who's now a United States Senator from Massachusetts. She was at Harvard. She was really the brainchild of the CFPB. And one of the things that she argued, and it really is almost an act of religion at the CFPB, is that large amounts of data can help policymakers enact different laws to protect you and me. And this is really, going back to your open here, this is really 1984 concepts that in order to devise reasonable policies for the public, they would like to amass huge amounts of data. And they will argue that this is just a policymaking venture and they should be entitled to it. Whether or not it's constitutional will be something that will have to be tested in the courts.
Yeah, I believe so, because policy making or not, search and seizure covers the government obtaining, without a warrant, frankly, personal property and information. And it's a whole idea of entering your private life, whether it be physically into your home or whether it be, into the data that is, in this day and age, your physical home is often less important than the information that pertains to you, which you carry with you everywhere you go. So, if they can't search my person on the street, why should they be able to get access to the information that allows my life to function?
A number of organizations and a number of members of Congress believe that this is a complete invasion of privacy, and that this should not be permitted. Now, whether or not they're able to prevail remains to be seen. Now, on top of the fact that not only will you not be able to opt out, and you probably will not even be notified that your data is being seized by the government, on top of it, there's a whole question of the vulnerability of these databases that the federal government will be amassing, and the real possibility that hackers could get in there and you could have a unprecedented identity theft problem.
Well, that, I think, is a very credible fear, because didn't we have issues with hacking with regard to this Obamacare website that was being put up by the federal government? And here is yet another federal government-run database. I mean, I think that there's certainly a concern about hacking Has there been any incidents that we can cite with regard to financial data in the hands of federal government in the past?
Well, the General Accounting Office did a study recently in December 2013 in which they took a look at how many incidents have been reported involving federal government databases in which personal identifiable information was held. And in 2009, there were more than 15,000 incidents. However, that number has increased dramatically, and in the last year that we have data, which is 2012, we're taking a look at about 23,000 incidents, and we expect that all of those hacking incidents will increase. And in fact, it's not just simply individual kids who are hacking or even criminal elements, but just recently, last week, the People's Republic of China, the Justice Department issued 5 indictments against members of the People's Liberation Army who reported directly to the equivalent of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who apparently were hacking into American corporations successfully over from 2006 to 2013.
Wow.
So the issue of hacking is a real problem in which there are professional hackers that will get into these databases. And when you have a database, I mean, this database will probably have hundreds of millions of personal identifiable information on you.
You know what, Richard? I've got to interrupt you. We've got to go to break. I'm getting a message on the Facebook here while I'm talking to you. Can you hold on, though? Because I think you're just beginning to touch on a very important subject. Can you hold on for 2 minutes while we break?
Sure.
Thanks so much. Listeners, we are speaking with Richard Pollack about a very important information management problem that we're going to be having with the federal government. And we're going to go to break right now. You're listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. We are broadcasting live to you from our flagship station, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet. Please check out our websites while we're at break at ccrshow.com and conservativecommandosradioshow.com. We'll continue speaking with Richard Pollack right after the break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I... Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people with freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rich Rader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios. that of WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and around the world on the internet. And our guest this segment is Richard Pollack. He's a senior watchdog reporter for the Washington Examiner, and we're discussing an article he wrote, New Federal Database Will Track Americans' Credit Ratings and Other Financial Information. Richard, thanks for holding through the break. We really do appreciate your time.
No problem.
Richard, in reading your article, there's a couple of things that really jumped out at me. That a letter was sent to Richard Condrey, who is the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, by Jeb Hasserling of Texas and Senator Carpo of Idaho. And they asked the question, this expansion represents an unwarranted intrusion into the private lives of ordinary Americans. And then what really bothers me is that Condrey, in his testimony to the House said, quote, we're making every effort to be careful, but he could not promise there wouldn't ever be a breach. You know, Richard, when I read this, I guess with the things that are in the news about the VA, I want to say, are the same people that are going to get this information, that are supposed to be protecting this information, are they the same people, government officials, that were supposed to take care of the people in the VA?
Well, of course, there are very different agencies. The Veterans Administration is one bureaucracy. The CFPB and the Financial Housing Finance Agency are different, but they do have a common thread that they all are federal bureaucrats, and there is a culture within the bureaucracy which is quite different than that, and I think in the private sector. They're slower, they're more cumbersome, they're not as nimble as in the private sector, and unfortunately there are a lot of people in government who just don't care. Now, there's plenty of people who do care, they care passionately, but there's a tremendous number of career bureaucrats who just do what is asked of them, nothing more. And this is a problem. So what you're seeing in the Veterans Administration are really decades of a very poor culture that just has continued to corrode over and over, so that I think even replacing the man at the top or even a few people will probably not be enough to really rectify it. These other two agencies are relatively new, but they have a lot of carryover people from other agencies. And I think that the idea, how conscientious will they be, how diligent will they be, will they set up enough protective barriers to protect this data and therefore protect us? All of those are very fair questions.
Richard, I'm also looking how you ended this article. You write, a May 1 White House report on cybersecurity of federal databases also recently warned, quote, if unchecked, big data could be a tool that substantially expands government power over citizens. Richard, I also think of the database that's being created through Obamacare. My God, Richard, if you link the Obamacare database with this database, they're going to know just about everything about every American that walks across this country.
That's true, absolutely. But the other issue is what happens if this data is hacked and it falls into the hands of criminal elements, people who decide to then go into your checking account or into your credit card accounts and to clean them out. The kinds of suffering that millions of innocent Americans could face as a result of a breach of these databases could be unprecedented.
Richard, as we're speaking, I have one of my Facebook friends messaged me a question. Who will have access to this info, and how can it be used, and how can this info be used against all of us?
Well,
big question, I know, but
they are very good questions, and one of the basic questions that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, as well as members of Congress and a number of other organizations that tend to be a little bit more liberal, all of them are asking, what in God's name do they need all this information for? And who will handle this information, who will have access to it, who will be denied the information, and there are no answers. There are no clear answers to these questions. It's very clear in some other documents that I have obtained that there is an information sharing policy that will be permitted between some of these agencies, so that it could be shared, and it would be non-public information, could be shared with other agencies that we don't know about at this time. All of these are very fair questions as to how this massive database is going to be managed, how it's going to be supervised and controlled, who will have access to it, and ultimately, what will they do with this information? Who will it help and who will it hurt?
Anna, with that, I'll throw it back to you. Anna Little, Rich, John, did we lose Anna Little? Hey, Rich.
Here I am. And, you know, with that, Richard, I've got to get back into this conversation because as I'm listening to you go on about this kind of information being collected and used without the consent of the individuals, I'm reminded of communist or socialist Russia, where it is the government that dictates to the people. And I'm reminded that in this country, it's the reverse, that the people are supposed to direct the government. So it's just a very, very difficult situation. And I want to go back briefly to your reference before the break about the 5 Chinese military members who actually, well, it's an allegation, but they hacked into the computer systems of American corporations. Is there any risk that by centralizing all of this data within the federal government, that a cyber attack upon the United States would then be more possible than if the information is more loosely connected via corporations which operate within our economy? And are we damaging ourselves by allowing this kind of information to be centralized in this way?
Well, the issue of big data being held in central locations is a very serious problem. There's no question about it. The truth is that this is pretty unprecedented. Yes, the Census Bureau has information, but much of it is innocuous information. I mean, there's some issues about your race and your background, but what we're talking about here is such detailed financial information, including checking accounts, your wealth, the different loans that you have out, the prime mortgage on your home. I mean, this data is extremely sensitive, and I think that there are many people out there. I mean, frankly, the Chinese government, and this is not my words, these are the words of others, the Chinese government, in effect, has an undeclared war against the United States in the whole area of cybersecurity. There have been many cyber attacks launched by the Chinese. They have a unit that's based in Shanghai that also has IP addresses in 13 other countries to disguise the origin of them. And they are conducting a relentless attack against both commerce, that is different corporations in this country, and against the U.S. government. Someday, some of those will succeed, and when they do, there may be a lot of trouble, a lot of pain for people.
Well, I'm glad to hear you reference that, because I don't hear a lot about these plans or well, let's say, activities toward hacking. I hear about electromagnetic pulses and concerns in that regard, nuclear attacks, but this cyber attack, I don't see it discussed enough, and I think it's a real concern because, at this digital age, I mean, we're operating our economy based on big data, and if big data then becomes, shall we say, useless, or if someone interferes with the flow of that big data, I don't know how we communicate with each other, let alone engage in commerce, e-commerce as they call it. What could the repercussions be if there were to be such a cyber attack upon the United States? And I do think you're right, China's the one to watch. Well,
I think that we're really entering uncharted territory with respect to cyber war, cyber warfare. It's a very serious problem, and I don't think that an awful lot of private companies, as well as the United States government, have taken it seriously. I referenced the General Accounting Office that had a report in December of 2013, and they noted well, let's just take a look at at one very important institution. There were 40 attempted cyber attacks against the Federal Reserve Bank. And yet, according to GAO, only one of those attacks was addressed. It turned out the others were minor, but the other 39 were not addressed, and they were not reported whatsoever. And that is a pretty central organization in our country. In fact, it was very interesting. 7 of the 8 government agencies that the GAO took a look at had failed to institute legitimate reporting requirements and notification requirements in terms of cyber attacks. Now, what's also really interesting is what's not being said. The GAO noted that the federal government has reporting requirements if there is a cyber attack or a breach of federal data.
You know what, Rich? We're just getting into the nitty-gritty here, and I know we're going to have you back, but I've got to end this segment. We've got to go to break. So will you just quickly tell people where they can find your work, how they can follow up with you, and how they can follow up with information on this particular subject?
Not a problem. You can just go to WashingtonExaminer.com. Take a look at all of the good stuff that both our watchdog group is doing, as well as those of the other news reporters in the newsroom. So WashingtonExaminer.com. Very easy, and they can find my article and other articles.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Richard Pollack. We are very, very proud to have you on the show, and we hope to come back and see us soon.
Bye-bye.
Listeners, you are listening to Conservative Commandos radio show, broadcasting to you live from our flagship station, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet. We've got to go to break right now, but we hope that you'll check out our websites at ccrshow.com.
To be the leader in production systems technology, to be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology, it takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Now hear this.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philly. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and around the world on the internet. And Anna Little, we do have our next guest with us. Will you please make the introduction?
I would be honored to. Listeners, we are going to be speaking this segment with Molly Hemingway. She's a senior editor at thefederalist.com. She's a longtime journalist. Her work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, the Los Angeles Times, The Guardian, The Washington Post, CNN, National Review, Get Religion, Ricochet, Christianity Today, Federal Times, Radio and Records, and many other publications. Molly was a 2004 recipient of a Phillips Foundation Journalism Fellowship. So we're very, very honored to be speaking with Molly Hemingway today. Molly, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Well, I love this topic that we're going to be talking about. I'm just going to read the title and then let you give the introduction of the background on it. A hot mess of bigotry and sexist generalizations, fresh from the grievance-obsessed victim culture. Talk to us about that topic.
It was just the most amazing reaction that we saw to the UCSB shooting out in California. This is where 4 men and 2 women actually lost their lives at the hand of this madman, and a lot of people responded with this very narcissistic hashtag activism that made it all about what had happened to them. So the whole basis was, the hashtag was, yes, all women. The idea being that while not all men are rapists and murderers, all women have suffered because some men are. And it just quickly devolved into a lot of straw men generalizations and bigotry, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's helpful in the view of what has gone on here. This is a very serious subject. You've had a deranged individual who took the lives of 6 people. And there may have been warning signals before. I actually stumbled across an article. It was in GOPUSA.com that police knew about the killer's videos during a welfare check, so that this could have been stopped had people taken action. And instead of discussing how to avoid such an incident, it seems like embracing the victimization of these individuals and trying to identify with it becomes the point of activism. I mean, how does that help?
Yeah, in fact, it actually can hurt, because one of the worst things you can do if you want to prevent further madmen from doing things like this, one of the incentives they have is to have their crazy ideas heard. So if you actually give a platform for those crazy ideas, if you respond to them as if they're legitimate points of discourse. I mean, this guy had some really horrible things to say about humanity in general, but women in particular. And by responding to it and acting like it's serious, it provides an incentive for future killers to think, well, you know what? If I want my crazy ideas heard, all I have to do is go out in a blaze of glory, and the media will treat my views as legitimate. So it's actually dangerous to respond this way. But then beyond that, it's also keeping us from having a really important discussion about serious mental illness in adults, which, is something that a lot of us family members that suffer from. And if you do, you know there's not very much you can do if you are worried about a family member hurting themselves or hurting other people. It's a very important conversation to have because we want to balance civil liberties for adults while also protecting society around us. You'll notice basically nobody is talking about that very real and serious issue that was a legitimate thing for us to talk about in the aftermath.
Well, it certainly is always legitimate in the aftermath. I'd like to see where we can begin to make it legitimate discourse before these things occur. But I do recognize, as you do, that there are civil liberties issues that we need to deal with. Not everyone who has a mental disability, not everyone who's having even temporary mental difficulties is going to go out and become a homicidal maniac. So, it's a delicate topic. But I did want to touch a little bit on the information that I stumbled upon here. It seems that Santa Barbara County Sheriff's deputies who checked on Elliot Rogers 3 weeks before he killed 6 college students were aware that he had posted disturbing videos but never viewed them before or after determining he was not a threat to himself or others. And this was disclosed by the department Thursday. So, I'm reading from a GOPUSA.com article. So, listeners, if you want to check that out, you can certainly just go to GOPUSA.com and read what I've just read out loud. But, I wanted to use that as a kind of a platform for a discussion between us, Molly, and perhaps for listeners to chime in whatever way they want to. Frankly, it seems that law enforcement stumbled upon evidence that this fellow might actually be the homicidal maniac that we're all concerned about.
I'm not sure if it's quite that easy, though, because while he had horribly disturbing videos that showed that he hated people, he didn't actually post the one that revealed that he had violent. He wanted to do violence, or, at least the one that everybody's talking about, the really bad video. He didn't post that until 10 minutes before he killed his first victim. So while even, what really could the police have done? I mean, it's not illegal to hate people. It's not illegal to hate women. I mean, it's a very bad thing to do, but I'm not sure if the police could have really done anything even then. Now, the fact that they didn't look into it more is deeply disconcerting because, here you have a mother who is begging authorities for help in handling what she can clearly see is her unstable son. And it seems like they didn't do the due diligence that would have been required.
And the fact that the mother is looking for help for this problem is a huge indicator, even more so than the videos that were posted. When a parent is reaching out for assistance from the authorities because they're aware that their child is not only mentally disabled or deranged, but has this potential for violence. And I think she was looking for help because she knew it was out of her hands. It was more than she could handle. And we've got to listen to folks when they're calling out for help that way. There's been too many of these incidents to ignore the fact that there's a connection between that hatred, mental disability, and the violent act. And we've got to determine where that line can be drawn, where we're not offending the individual's civil liberties. We're not crossing that line on search and seizure, but we are protecting the public from someone who has these homicidal tendencies and could very well kill people, as this gentleman has done. Now, I've got to take us to break. Can you hold on for a minute? Because I want you to pick up after break with what I've just discussed, okay?
Sure.
Thanks so much, Molly. Listeners, we are speaking with Molly Hemingway about the very important topic of how we use social media in response to these violent acts like the one that happened in Spreaker. And you're listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. We're broadcasting live today from our flagship station, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet. We want you to check out our website at ccrshow.com and conservativecommandosradioshow.com. And we'll continue speaking with Molly Hemingway right after the break.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet. And don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Molly Hemingway. She's a senior editor at thefederalist.com. Molly, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Molly, as I'm listening to the conversation between you and Anna, some of our Facebook friends are asking some questions like, and I'll just ask you to respond. Is social media, and there's three questions that are all very similar. Is social media getting too much power? That's one question. Number two is YouTube making heroes of the sick? And the third question is, in giving them a forum, does this cause copycat crimes? What's your take, Molly?
Those are great questions, and I think that these are the types of things that we have to be thinking about as we see the rise of social media. I was deeply concerned with how everybody seemed to decide in the aftermath of this actual tragedy that they would do this hashtag activism, this yes all women, which made some actual tragedy be about something that was just, it was almost like a non sequitur. This idea that because some women have faced some injustice at some point in their life, that's what this killing had to become about. But all the media, all the traditional media, totally jumped on board. They totally agreed. And I think it's partly because normally they like to make mass killings be about gun control, but in this case only half of the people had died from guns, but half had died from knives. So it would not have worked for their traditional template, which is to critique the Second Amendment.
Right.
Went for their next favorite meme, which is war on women.
Right.
So even though most women, in fact, have wonderful relationships with the men in their lives, and in fact, though most people understand that all men and all women are capable of treating each other poorly, or all men all men and women have had people behave poorly toward them. This is not something in which women are special, although women are particularly vulnerable. That is certainly something that's worth talking about. But this hashtag, it was such an easy way to respond and signal that you had the right attitude without actually doing anything that was meaningful. And it just seemed like a very cheap form of activism. You could pretend like you were doing something when really you weren't doing anything at all, because there's not much we can do in the aftermath of these tragedies. We don't know how to deal with this type of evil, this type of sin, and to some extent they're senseless, and the solutions are so difficult. But I was just very disappointed with the way the media completely took this war on women meme and kept it going, rather than having a more fruitful discussion.
Molly, this hashtag mentality, I think you're onto something here, because maybe in a way there could be several ramifications, meanings for it, whatever. Some people might even be saying, yeah, right on, brother. This is how I feel too. That it's a way of, as you say, people to participate and to make, and maybe the voiceless a voice in responding with these hashtags.
One thing I do find interesting is I think overall, when you look at these technological advances like YouTube videos, they're largely good. I mean, I love the things I have gotten to learn from these YouTube videos. Of course, there are going to be people who abuse this technology or use it for horrible aims, but a healthy society is one that doesn't feed the flames or feed the, pour fuel on the fire of the hatred that was present in this guy's video. And that's the unfortunate thing that happened in the aftermath, is that people just took an opportunity to kind of talk about all the hate that's in the world, when, of course, the only real thing that can cure these types of evils is for us to love one another more, even in the face of this evil. We need to show love and respect to each other. We need to honor each other as men and women. And if instead we're just kind of spiraling into this circle of hatred, that doesn't do anybody any good, and it just leads to more fighting between the sexes and between individuals, and that just is very unhealthy.
Well, Molly, I'm really glad that you're willing to speak about this, because, as I said, it's a very, very delicate situation. And just before the break, I had introduced to you the idea that there might be an opportunity to intervene if we listen to family members who speak up about these mentally ill individuals who may have violent tendencies. And I know there was a mental health check by the authorities at the apartment of this perpetrator. And so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about where the limits are and what those who observe these individuals are within their rights to do and where we were crossing the line.
Well, one of the things that's very interesting about this is while very few seriously mentally ill people kill other people, a lot of seriously mentally ill people kill themselves. And so that's normally when you see family members of adults. There are some things you can do if you're dealing with a minor child, but when you're dealing with an adult, it's much more difficult. There's almost nothing you can do. And most family members that are facing this are worried that their family member is going to hurt themselves. And it's not an uncommon thing that happens. I mean, that's happened in my family, and I know tons of people who that's happened to. So we need to figure out a way that, I don't have the answers, but I do wish people were thinking about it more. If there were ways to sort of have temporary provisions to check in on someone so that they don't hurt themselves or, God forbid, other people, that's a very important thing for our society to figure out. We did go too far in the wrong direction of you used to be able to hold someone against their will with just claims of mental illness. That's obviously not a good thing. That's not good for a free society. But now we've gone too far in the other direction, where we are leaving people vulnerable to hurting themselves or others. So that's the kind of thing I'd rather see have a discussion over. Are there legitimate things that we can do that don't violate people's liberties, but do work out for the common good, not just for when people hurt other people, but when they hurt themselves? That would be a much more fruitful conversation. And I
agree with you wholeheartedly, Molly. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your new website, because obviously you're looking into this particular issue. There will be other issues that we want to follow you on. So talk to us a little bit about this brand new website.
Yes. Well, The Federalist thefederalist.com is a new website we started in September, and we look at issues, political issues, policy issues, and cultural issues from a conservative and libertarian standpoint. And so we like to have discussions on these things that aren't just quick reactions, but look at things in depth and keep a civil tone and introduce ideas to people who might not have heard them before. And we have been wildly successful. So it's definitely worth checking out, and it's thefederalist.com.
That's wonderful. And do you encourage people who visit the website to participate in the conversation?
Sure, absolutely. And you can sign up to get it delivered to you daily. We have a daily email, but then also there are chances for comments and whatnot as well.
That's wonderful. So, listeners, if you want to participate with Molly in investigating these very important issues, which often the mainstream media ignores, this is yet one more way that you can spout off or perhaps contribute to resolving some of these issues. So, again, that's thefederalist.com. Am I correct, Molly?
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we've really enjoyed speaking with you on Conservative Commandos Radio show this afternoon, and we hope that you'll come back and visit us again soon. Do you have any other parting remarks that you would like our listeners to take away from this interview?
No, but I really enjoyed being with you, and I hope I get a chance to again.
That's wonderful. Listeners, you've been speaking this afternoon with Molly Hemingway. She is very, very interested in this new website she's putting forward, thefederalist.com, but she's also senior editor at thefederalist.com, and she's been a long-time journalist. I'm glad that she had the opportunity to spend some time with us here, and the issue that we discussed is a very important one, the mentally ill, the mentally disabled, and the violence and the precursors, and it's such a difficult area to navigate when we're talking about civil liberties versus public safety. So very, very glad that we were able to speak with Molly today. Rick, very important issue.
Very important issue. And Anna, I just wanted to, it's been such a busy day in the news, and there was something coming across that caught my eye. A Quincy cab driver who was a friend of the late Boston Marathon bombing suspect, Tamarin Tsarnaev, has been charged with obstructing the investigation of the bombing. He was arrested this morning by federal authorities. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston said he made a brief initial appearance in the U.S. District Court in Boston this afternoon. He was ordered held without bail until a detention hearing could be held. He has been indicted by a federal grand jury on one count of destroying, altering, and falsifying records, documents, and tangible objects in a federal investigation. He's also been charged with 3 counts of making false statements in a federal terrorism investigation. So maybe, Anna, we haven't heard the last of the Boston bombings. Anna, we got about 30 seconds. Final thoughts?
Well, I think it's very important for us to make sure that we are into these GOP primaries. So I just want to mention quickly 3 key endorsements that Richard Vigueries put out there. You can find them at conservativehq.com. And they are in several different states. There's one in Mississippi. There's another in Carolina, South Carolina. And then the third one is in Iowa. So you should check those out. And then we also haven't heard the last with regard to Benghazi, and Hillary Clinton is ramping up. We've had a secret visit or lunch meeting between her and the president. We're very, very secretive. Nothing transparent about that. And certainly with the Benghazi investigation and her presidential plans, I think we have to watch that coming up. And last but not least, I think we may have gotten to the Russians. There has been a drawdown of troops leaving the Ukraine border. It's certainly not sufficient. You got to Google that one, folks, and check it out. But we've got to keep our eye on these issues. I mean, this international stuff, awfully important to our national security.
All right. With that, Anna, I want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host today. I want to thank Mr. John Forsyth Jr., our own Silent John, for doing a great job of working the boards. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next week on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.